What is up, guys? Today we're going to be doing chapter number 6, plant nutrition, and you're watching BWA-Biology with Anas. If you enjoy this video and find it helpful and informative, please like, share, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. All right, now before we get into this, in the previous chapters, we learned about biological molecules, we learned about enzymes, we learned about what biological molecules are used to make, we learned about how enzymes are a crucial part of our living systems and how they help in chemical reactions, so on and so forth. Now we're going to look into the plant nutrition and how do plants firstly make their own nutrition, how do they make their own energy and how do they use it, so on and so forth. So what we're gonna look at here is what do plants make, right, for the nutrition, what do they use it for, and how do they make use of the properties of different biological molecules, like the biological molecules we discussed earlier, like carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, so on and so forth. So how do these plants use make use of these biological molecules? Today we're going to be looking at photosynthesis. Now photosynthesis is a process in the plant cells. Specifically, this process does not occur in animal cells, it only occurs in the plant cells. And photo, as you can see from the name, is photo, meaning light, right? And synthesis, anything where you add synthesis, that means to produce or to generate, right? Or to make, right? Make. So you will realize that here photo means light, and we're basically synthesizing, we're producing something with the help of light. With the help of light, we're going to be producing something. So the plants use light to produce something, and we're going to look into what is photosynthesis and what it is used for. Now focus points for today's video is what is photosynthesis, number one, very crucial. What is chlorophyll and what does it do, number two. How are the products of photosynthesis stored and what are they used for, कहाँ store हो रहे हैं, कहाँ use हो रहे हैं. And lastly, what is the effect of light intensity. Okay, number one, light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, and temperature on the rate of photosynthesis. Last time हमने पढ़ा था कि enzymes के जो rate है, how is it affected by temperature, pH. Today we're going to be learning कि जो photosynthesis है, how is that affected by light intensity, number one, carbon dioxide concentration, number two, number three, temperature. These three things, how does this affect photosynthesis? All right, now let's get into it. Key definition: photosynthesis, what is it? Photosynthesis is the process by which plants make carbohydrates from raw materials using energy from light. As I discussed earlier, they use light to make this energy, right? They use light to make carbohydrate as their energy source. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants make carbohydrates, right, from raw materials using energy. All right, so yeah, that's the main thing you should know about photosynthesis. Now moving on, all living organisms need food, right? All of us need food, even as humans. We हमें खाना खाना होता है just to get energy, right? They need it as a source of raw materials to build new cells and tissues as they grow. They also need food as a source of energy, of course, as usual, just like we need a food to grow, right? Just like that, we also need energy we also need food as a source of energy, right, to function. Just like that, plants need it for the same reasons. Food is a kind of fuel that drives vital living processes and enables chemical changes, aerobic respiration, blah blah blah. Animal take in food, digest it, and use it. I'm sorry. Animals take in food, digest it, and use the digested products to build their tissue or to release energy. As we learned, के of course जो भी हम चीज़ें खाते हैं, it goes inside our bodies, and then our bodies digest that food, use it, utilize it to make other tissues and to carry out different functions of the body, right? Now plants also need energy and raw materials, but apart from few insect eating species, plants do not take in food, right? The most yeah, like some of the plants, I don't know if you guys have played Plants versus Zombies, but there was this one plant that could eat up the zombie, right? It had a big mouth. I think it was a, yeah, it's called a fly trapper, fly catcher. I'm forgetting the name, but yeah. So some plants like those, when insects land onto them, they eat them up, right? But these are some very rare plants. Most of the plants don't eat and don't consume food this way. What usually plants do is, the most likely source of their raw materials seem to be the soil. However, experiments show that the weight gained by growing plant is much more than the weight lost by the soil it is growing in. So there must be other sources of raw materials. So basically what they're saying is कि when we saw कि जो plant की growth हो रही है उसका जो mass increase हो रहा है, so it should be equivalent to the decrease in the mass of the soil because it's getting the nutrients and everything from the soil. But that's not true. It's gaining much more of weight than the weight has been lost from the soil. So it means कहीं और से भी वो अपना weight gain कर रहा है, कहीं और से भी energy मिल रही है, right? So a hypothesis or a theory to explain the source of food in a plant is that it makes it from air, water, and soil mineral salts. Carbohydrates like glucose, C6H12O6, contain the elements carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The carbon and oxygen could be supplied by carbon dioxide from the air, and hydrogen could come from water. So, हमें तीनों molecules मिल गए. As we, of course, we need glucose, right? C6H12O6. Now, to make that glucose, what plants do is they use carbon dioxide. यहाँ से carbon molecule आ गया, right? Carbon oxygen आ गया, and they use water as a source of hydrogen from the soil. The nitrogen and sulfur needed to making the proteins could come from nitrates and sulfates in the soil. So basically what they're saying is, from the air, carbon dioxide can be supplied, which gives carbon and oxygen, and from the soil, water can be absorbed, which gives hydrogen. And for proteins, to make proteins which have like nitrogen and sulfur containing compounds, they can just absorb these ions from the soil, like nitrates and sulfates. When complicated food molecules are built up from simpler substances, the process is called synthesis, right? Like if we are like joining multiple glucose molecules together with one another, एक पॉइंट पे जाके या तो वो वी हैव मल्टीपल पॉलीमर्स ऑफ ग्लूकोज, राइट? जो पिछले व्हाट्स इट कॉल्ड डिफरेंट चैप्टर्स में हमने अभी पढ़ा था. कुछ हैं सेल्यूलोस, राइट? सम आर ग्लाइकोजन, or you could say starch as well. These all are polymers of glucose. So when we join a lot of these simple glucose molecules with one another, they could form these polymers. So you could say cellulose synthesis, glycogen synthesis, and starch synthesis, because these all molecules are made from one glucose molecule adding up to multiple glucose molecules. So that's what they're saying. That's the meaning of synthesis. When complicated food molecules are built up from simpler substances, like you could say complicated food molecules like what? Like starch. Starch is built up from multiple simpler substances like glucose. This process is called synthesis. It needs enzymes, as almost all of the chemical reactions, they need enzymes to speed up the reaction. It needs enzymes and energy to make it happen. The enzymes are present in the plant cells. The energy for the first stages in the synthesis come from sunlight. So the process is called photosynthesis. So what they basically broke down the word that the energy for the first stage in the synthesis comes from the sunlight. So we use sunlight, as you can see, sunlight, and light is simplified into photo over here, and synthesis is because we are forming what? We're forming complicated food molecules. We're forming energy, right? We're basically we're forming energy from the help of light, from the help of sunlight. Photo means light. There is evidence that the green substance chlorophyll, okay, now we're moving on to chlorophyll. So green substance chlorophyll in the chloroplast of plant cells is involved in photosynthesis. Chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight and provides the energy as it gains from chemical reaction. So the function of chlorophyll is to convert light energy to chemical energy. There's a conversion of energy happening over here to form glucose and other carbohydrates. So हो क्या रहा है, मैं आपको एक ना पहले मैं आपको एक फार्मूला बता देता हूँ कि फोटोसिंथेसिस का एक्चुअली फार्मूला है क्या. Formula of photosynthesis is, as we learned, it uses carbon dioxide from the air, takes in water from the roots, from the soils, and hence using these two, there's the and uses sunlight as its energy source, right? It uses sunlight as its energy source to make C6H12O6, which is the energy source, which is the carbohydrate molecule which is going to use in the plant cell to carry out a lot of its function, plus oxygen plus yeah. So that's what's going to happen, right? Now what you need to know is the complete, ये तो हो गया photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis. Now the complete opposite of photosynthesis, the complete, अगर आप इसी रिएक्शन को उल्टा कर देंगे ना, जो राइट साइड वाले मॉलिक्यूल उसको लेफ्ट पे लेके आ जाएं और लेफ्ट वाले को राइट पे लेके आ जाएं, इसका complete opposite होता है respiration. Respiration is also a process in the plants and in the animal cells which help in producing energy for different functions, right? So what happens there is C6H12O6, which is our glucose molecule, plus oxygen gives us carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. ये energy है ना, this is the energy used up in different chemical reactions, in different enzymatic reactions जिसमें enzymes use होते हैं for different functions of the body, right? So this is our carbohydrate source. This is the carbohydrate source which is used to produce the actual energy that we need. जो ग्लूकोज इन इट सेल्फ है वो एनर्जी नहीं होती, लेकिन ग्लूकोज से जो हम फिर बाद में बनाते हैं ना ये एनर्जी, दैट्स वाई वी से कि ग्लूकोज इज़ अ एनर्जी सोर्स. ग्लूकोज इन इट सेल्फ इज़ नॉट एनर्जी. अगर आपने सिर्फ ग्लूकोज को लाइक जस्ट इन इट सेल्फ इट्स नॉट एनर्जी, बट व्हेन यू पुट ग्लूकोज थ्रू द प्रोसेस ऑफ रेस्पिरेशन, that's when it produces energy, right? So you could say it's a form of how energy can be produced. Just like that, when you look at photosynthesis, we are using carbon dioxide over here, we're using H2, and we're using sunlight as a source of energy, right? ये जो energy यहाँ produce हो रही थी उसी energy को अगर हम उल्टा लेके जाएं तो वो sunlight के form में वो use कर रहा है in photosynthesis. So carbon dioxide plus water in the use of sunlight as a source of energy produces C6H12O6 and O2. This C6H12O6 can be used for multiple functions. हमने पहले भी पढ़ा था कि जो C6H12O6 है, it can be stored in the form of starch, right? Multiple glucose molecules can be joined together to form starch, or it can form what? It can form the cell wall of the plant, cellulose, right? It can form cellulose, which forms the cell wall of the plant. So there's multiple uses of C6H12O6, and of course this can be used for multiple functions in the plant cell as well, right? And since very important, since the C6H12O6 is not consumed by the plant, right? It's produced by the plant. हम तो जैसे ग्लूकोज तो खा लेते हैं, प्लांट खाते थोड़ी हैं C6, वो बनाते हैं, एंड जब वो ये बनाते हैं ना तो फिर ये जो C6H12O6 है, the plants can put it into the process of respiration. After doing photosynthesis, the plant could either make starch, either make cellulose, or the plant could put the C6H12O6 into the respiration process. And उस respiration से हमें क्या मिलेगा? हमें मिलेगा energy. Plant को मिलेगा energy. Plant उस energy का क्या क्या करेगा? It's going to do all its different chemical processes and reactions. So that's the basic crux of why this process occurs, right? Now the chemical equation for photosynthesis, as they've given here, carbon dioxide plus water in the help of light energy, and as we learned that chlorophyll is a present in chloroplast. Let's suppose ये हमारे पास एक प्लांट सेल आ गया, ठीक है, ये उसका बाहर सेल वॉल, अंदर वाली सेल मेम्ब्रेन, ये एक बड़ा सा वैक्यूल, and here's the nucleus, right? Just like that, there are a few chloroplast present around here as well. Let me just get the right color so you get the right picture. There's like chloroplast present in the plant cell as well around the cytoplasm. So is chloroplast में ना, just like nucleus is a part of the cell vacuole, just like that all of these are organelles, right? Nucleus is an organelle, vacuole is a organelle, chloroplast is an organelle. Just like that, inside chloroplast there are green pigments called chlorophyll, right? जस्ट लाइक हमने पहले अगर आपने मॉड्यूल में उसमें देखा था, which one was it, in the one that I was describing, RBCs have hemoglobin inside them, right? They have hemoglobin. This hemoglobin is a red pigment, this is what gives color to the RBCs. That's why RBCs are red in color, because of this hemoglobin. It's a red pigment. Just like that, chlorophyll is a green pigment. Chlorophyll is a green pigment which gives color to these chloroplasts and gives a green color, right? And these chlorophylls help in absorption of sunlight. Now, looking at photosynthesis, carbon dioxide plus water with the help of chlorophyll absorbing the sunlight gives us glucose plus oxygen. And here's the formula: C6H2 C6 C of course 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O with the help of chlorophyll using this light energy gives us C6H12O6 plus 6O2. This C6H12O6 glucose molecule can be used for multiple functions. I already described this before. This oxygen is released into the air, and hence this can be used by us human beings for respiration. As we looked over here, respiration process mein oxygen we use up, right? Just like that, plants produce this oxygen, and hence that's why plants are so good. They are producing oxygen, and we need this oxygen for respiring. Very important. Make sure you remember the number of each type of molecule as well as the symbols. You need to know कि यहाँ 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules हैं. There's C6H12O6 and there's 6 oxygen molecules. This is a balanced equation, right? I'm sure आप लोगों ने chemistry में पढ़ी होगी. This is called a balanced equation. In order to keep the equation simple, the glucose is shown as the food compound produced. However, the glucose is quickly converted to sucrose for transportation around the plant. So of course, ये जो भी हमारा glucose बन रहा है, it is transported from one place to another depending कि कहाँ उसकी ज़रूरत है, तो उसको हम सुक्रोज के फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं, क्योंकि दैट्स द फॉर्म जिसमें वो ट्रांसपोर्ट हो रहा होता है. जैसे जिस फॉर्म में वो स्टोर हो रहा होता है वो स्टार्च होता है, जिस फॉर्म में वो सेल वॉल बन रहा होता है सेल्यूलोस होता है, जिस फॉर्म में वो ट्रांसपोर्ट हो रहा होता है वो सुक्रोज है. आई होप दैट्स क्लियर. Then it is stored as starch or converted into other molecules. Easy peasy. The process of photosynthesis. The details of photosynthesis are not the same in all plants. However, the hypothesis given in the chapter has been supported by a lot of experiment testing and is accepted around the world. The next section describes how photosynthesis takes place in plants. The process takes place mainly in cells of the leaves. The photosynthesis mainly takes place where? In the leaves of the plants, over here, in the leaves of the plant. And is summarized figure 6.2. In land plants, water is absorbed from the soil by the roots. It is carried in the water vessels of the veins, xylem, up to the stem of the leaves. तो ये जो water हमारे पास आ रहा है, it's a source coming from the soil. It's being absorbed into the roots of the plant, and then it's being transported up the xylem. Xylem is like a vessel, right? Xylem is like a vessel which जिसके अंदर आपका जो water है, water transport हो रहा है, right? Up to the stem of the leaf. Just like मैं आपको example दूँ, जैसे हमारे पास जो blood है, blood is being flowed in what? In arteries, veins, right? Just like that, water is being transported in xylem. It's like a lumen structure जिसमें वो transport हो रहा है. Carbon dioxide is absorbed from the air through the stromata, right? Pores in the leaf structure we're going to see later in this chapter. In the leaf cells, the carbon dioxide and water are joined to make glucose. We already know that. The energy been absorbed by the green pigment called chlorophyll in the chloroplast, which is present in the chloroplast. This is an organelle of of the leaf cells. तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड आया एयर से, वाटर आया रूट से, सनलाइट आई विद द हेल्प ऑफ एब्जॉर्बिंग chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight. The chlorophyll is present in chloroplast. This is the basic crux of photosynthesis. This helps to produce glucose and oxygen. The reaction takes place here. Chloroplasts are small green structures present in the cytoplasm of the leaf cell. Chlorophyll is the substance which makes leaves and stems look green. It absorbs energy from light and uses it to split the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen escapes from the leaf and hydrogen molecules join the carbon dioxide molecule to make glucose. राइट राइट सो हमारे पास यहाँ आ गया CO2 एंड प्लस H2O जो राइट तो जो ये ऑक्सीजन मॉलिक्यूल है ना H2O के अंदर, ये तो escape कर जाता है एज O2 राइट इन द एयर इन द एटमोसफियर, लेकिन ये जो हाइड्रोजन मॉलिक्यूल हो गया एंड जो कार्बन एंड ऑक्सीजन मॉलिक्यूल these three help to produce our C6H12O6, our glucose molecule. In this way, energy from light has been transferred into energy in chemicals. So जो हम इतनी बार कह रहे थे ना, ये जो light energy, this light energy is used to help to produce chemical energy in the form of chemical compounds. Once again, sorry. Yeah. Alright, moving on. The plant use the photosynthetic products. कि ये जो प्रोडक्ट्स हैं C6H12O6 ये कहाँ कहाँ यूज़ होते हैं. Let's get into it. The glucose is produced during the process of photosynthesis. It is used in respiration. I already described that, to provide energy. It is quickly changed to sucrose for transport around the plant. तो ये जो ग्लूकोज है C6H12O6 अब ये respiration वाले process में भी जा सकता है to produce energy, to provide energy. या अगर इसको ट्रांसपोर्ट करना होता है ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल में, हम इसको सुक्रोज में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं टू ट्रांसपोर्ट अराउंड द प्लांट. स्टार्च on the other hand, glucose that is not needed for respiration is turned into starch and stored or changed into other molecules. जो उस मोमेंट में हमें नहीं चाहिए होता ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल, जो बस स्टोरेज में रखना होता है कि जब ज़रूरत पड़े तो यूज़ हो, उसको हम स्टार्च मॉलिक्यूल में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं. हेंस अगर आप सोचोगे यार बहुत सारे ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल्स एडअप होते जा रहे हैं जो यूज़ नहीं हो रहे, तो ऑफकोर्स वो स्टोर ही होंगे ना. और स्टार्च बनता कैसे? विद द हेल्प ऑफ एडिंग मल्टीपल ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल्स विद वन अनदर. तो ऑफकोर्स दैट्स गोना फॉर्म स्टार्च एज अ स्टोर्ड कंपाउंड. स्टार्च मॉलिक्यूल्स आर एडेड टू द ग्रोइंग स्टार्च ग्रैन्यूल्स इन द क्लोरोप्लास्ट. हमने अब क्या पढ़ा? क्लोरोप्लास्ट में दो चीज़ें हैं राइट. क्लोरोप्लास्ट में दो चीज़ें हैं. नंबर वन क्लोरोफिल राइट, and just which helps absorbing the sunlight for photosynthesis, and number two starch granule. This is what stores the starch. यहाँ starch stored होता है. If the glucose concentration increased in the mesophyll cells of the leaf, it could affect the osmotic balance between the cells. We have seen the osmosis कि कहाँ से कहाँ पानी ट्रांसफ़र करता है. Starch is a relatively insoluble compound, so it does not alter the concentration of the cell contents. Some plants store it as starch grains in the cells and their stems or roots. Other plants, like the potato or cassava, have special storage organs, tubers, for holding the reserves of starch. Sugar is stored in the fruits for some plants. For example, grapes contains up to 25% of glucose and other sugar. तो ये जो ग्लूकोज है ना, ये अलग अलग वेज में स्टोर होता है. कुछ वे में स्टार्च स्टोर होता है जहाँ स्टेम्स में स्टोर हो जाता है, रूट्स में स्टोर हो जाता है. अदर प्लांट्स जैसे पोटैटो होते हैं, पोटैटो तो रूट्स में होता है ना, रूट्स से आप निकालते हो पोटैटो को, तो वो अपने खुद के स्टोरेज ऑर्गन्स होते हैं नीचे पोटैटो में, लाइक ट्यूबर्स. Potato itself is like a place where like a starch is stored, that it's a storage reserve, but it's completely different from how usually normal plants store their glucose in the form of starch. All right. Okay, moving on. Here we have a few images ताकि आपको थोड़ा समझ भी आए. ये रूट हो गया. रूट्स क्या absorb कर रहे थे? वाटर absorb कर रहे थे. नाइट्रेट आयंस absorb कर रहे थे. They were absorbing sulfate ions as well, right? They were absorbing sulfate ions as well. um, or or leaf. What were the leaf doing? The leaf was uh, helping entry of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide ये leaf के अंदर enter हो रहा था. Secondly, leaf were the place जहाँ से oxygen निकल रहा था. Oxygen was getting out. And leaf was the place जहाँ आपको ये green green color दिख रहा है ना leaf का. Green color क्यों है? Because of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll क्या कर रहा था? Helps in absorbing light, sunlight. So there's a few things you need to know. ये रहा sunlight आ रही है, right? Here carbon dioxide from the air आ रहा है, water from the soil आ गया, with the help absorbs into the roots. Easy peasy. Here is the really good diagram representing ये chloroplast. ये जो green molecules आपको green organelles आपको जो दिख रहे हैं ना, these are chloroplast. Yeah, these are a few diagrams that you should look at ताकि आपकी थोड़ी visual memory में भी ये चीज़ें आ जाएं. And here they're saying sunlight penetrates the leaf. ऊपर से ये penetrate कर गया. Other than that, vessels carrying water, जो हमने exilum की बात की थी ना, तो exilum, let's suppose ये यहाँ से example देता हूँ. सोचें यहाँ से water absorb हुआ. अब यहाँ stems वगैरह में ना यहाँ होगा exilum, जिसके through water keeps moving up and moves into the leaf. That's basically what the function of exilum. It's a tubular structure, hollow tubular structure, which helps in the transport of water. And here cells carrying food made in leaf. Carbon dioxide diffuses through the air spaces of each cells. यहाँ से carbon dioxide enter हो गया, and it enters through the stoma. It's a pore. It's an opening. Pore is also called an opening, right? It's an opening basically. Perfect. And water passes into the cell from vessels by osmosis. Of course, जब let's suppose यहाँ से water आ रहा था, let's suppose यहाँ से water is entering. It can, of course, osmosis क्या होता है? When water molecules move from higher concentration to lower higher water potential to lower water potential. We know water potential over here is high, and in the cells over here is low. So of course the water is gonna move from here into the cell with the help of osmosis. Okay, moving on. Sucrose. The starch is steadily broken down to sucrose. Chapter 4, which is insoluble. The sucrose is transported out of the cell into the phloem. These are food carrying cells of the leaf veins. Again, what were the water carrying cells, or you could say tubes? They were exilum. Just like that, to transport our food, to transport our sucrose, we have phloem, right? So water के लिए we have xylem to transport, and for sucrose we have phloem. Okay, these veins will pass the sucrose to all parts of the plants that do not photosynthesize. जहाँ वो ग्लूकोज बन ही नहीं रहा, वहाँ जाएगा ना ये सारा एनर्जी, ताकि वहाँ यूटिलाइज हो, क्योंकि वहाँ तो बन ही नहीं रहा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल द ग्रोइंग बर्ड्स, the ripening fruits, the roots, and the underground storage organs. The cells in these places will use the sucrose in many ways. Cellulose, इतनी बार हमने cellulose के बारे में बात की है. Plant cell walls are made up of cellulose. अब तो आपको पता चल गया होगा. Cellulose molecules are long chain of glucose. They make tough meshwork around this outside of the cell. The cellulose cell wall holds in the contents of the cell, but is freely permeable. This will allow most of molecules to pass through. इन्होंने ये क्यों बोला क्यों है? They are basically referring to comparison to cell membrane, which is what? Which is partially permeable. Cell membrane is partially permeable. However, cell wall is freely permeable. It allows everything to pass through. Okay, so main function cell wall का rigidity देना है. It helps holding the cell together, gives support to the cell. Cell membrane का function अलग है. Cell membrane is not that thick. जितना cell wall इतना thick है ना, made up of a meshwork of glucose. Cell membrane इतना thick नहीं है. सेल मेम्ब्रेन का फंक्शन अलग है. सेल मेम्ब्रेन इज लाइक अ सिक्योरिटी गार्ड, सीइंग कि कौन सी चीज़ जा रही है, कौन सी चीज़ आ रही है, what and stopping the things that the cell does not need, so on and so forth. Respiration. Glucose molecule is also used in respiration. The glucose can be used to provide energy. The process of respiration oxidizes the glucose. क्या पढ़ा था मैं हमने? When it was glucose plus oxygen gives us carbon dioxide plus water, right? So this and plus energy. तो ये जो सब energy की बात हो रही है ना कि it provides energy, right? That glucose provides energy. This is how glucose provides energy. Like this is very important that you should know. This is how it provides energy. The products are carbon dioxide and water, and the energy released is used for other chemical reactions like the building up of proteins, so on and so forth. And we know how proteins are built up with the help of amino acids. टेस्ट योर सेल्फ. लेट्स सी जो हमने आज पढ़ा, और ये इन्होंने अच्छी डायग्राम भी दी हुई है. कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्लस वाटर हो गया, हेल्प्स इन फॉर्मिंग ग्लूकोज. ग्लूकोज कैन बी फॉर्म यूज्ड इन मल्टीपल प्लेसेस. सुक्रोज इज द वे ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट, इज द फॉर्म ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट ऑफ ग्लूकोज. एंड देन बाद में जाके जहाँ इट हैज़ टू रीच, जब वो वहाँ पहुँच जाए, then it can be converted back into glucose, and then it can be put in the process of respiration. And उस respiration की process से क्या मिलेगा हमें energy मिलेगी. मेन चीज़ energy है, right? Glucose could be used to form starch as the storage reserves and stored in tubers and seeds. Cellulose to form cell walls. Very good, a very good diagram. मैंने पहले भी सारी चीज़ें explain कर दी थी. So it's good they gave you here as well. Now let's test ourselves. जो अभी हमने पढ़ा है, let's test it. Question number 1A, state what substances a plant must take in to carry out photosynthesis. कौन कौन सी चीज़ें it must take in हमने already पढ़ लिया है. Main आपको अब तो जो formula है अब तो आपको आ जाना चाहिए. C6CO2 plus 6H2O gives us C6H12O6 plus 6O2 with the help of light, right? So they ask, state what substances a plant must take in to carry out. What substances? We need carbon dioxide, we need water, and we need sunlight. These are the substances that it needs to take in to carry out photosynthesis. Describe where the plant gets each of these substances from. Carbon dioxide coming from the air, water coming from the roots, the light coming from, of course, the sunlight, and it's absorbed with the help of chlorophyll. Okay, question number C, state what must be present in the cell to make photosynthesis work. What must be present in the cell? What must be present? What do we need? What must, of course, these are the things we need, right? But what must be present? We need chlorophyll, which means which is present in chloroplast. We need chloroplast in the cell, very important, to absorb the sunlight. Agar wo sunlight absorb hi nahi ho rahi, then this reaction won't take place. So we need chlorophyll, and of course we need all these molecules as well to carry out photosynthesis, right? The state must be present in the cell, right? What? So yeah, एक तो ये molecules हो गए which must be present in the cell, but जो if they're talking about like organelles वगैरह, then yeah, definitely there should be chloroplast जिसमें chlorophyll होता है, right? जिसमें chlorophyll होता है which helps in absorbing sunlight. Okay, which of the following are needed? Or you also one more thing also very important. There should also be present xylem. क्यों? Xylem helps in transporting water, and जब water goes from the roots to the leaf. Why is it going to the leaf? Because chlorophyll is present in the leaf. Chlorophyll is present in the leaf because it's absorbing light. So when the light's being absorbed, जो सारा process and carbon dioxide is entering into the leaf from the air. So everything's happening in the leaf. So that's why water is moving into the leaf. So for that, what do we need? We need xylem to transport this water. So some important things like these, right? Question number 2, which of the following are needed to produce starch in a leaf? All right, carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrates, water, chlorophyll. ऑलराइट सो दे बेसिकली आस्किंग स्टार्च प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए हमें कौन कौन सी चीज़ें चाहिए. पहले तो हमें ग्लूकोज, स्टार्च बनाने के लिए क्या चाहिए होता है, ग्लूकोज चाहिए होता है. ग्लूकोज बनाने के लिए हमें क्या करना होगा, फोटोसिंथेसिस. यहाँ हमने प्रोसेस देख लिया फोटोसिंथेसिस का. ये जो हमें ग्लूकोज बनाना है इसमें हमें कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड भी चाहिए, वाटर भी चाहिए. सो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड येस, वी नीड वाटर येस, ऑक्सीजन नो. बिकॉज वाई डोंट वी नीड ऑक्सीजन? We don't need oxygen because oxygen is just the product of photosynthesis. It's not a need of photosynthesis, right? Do we need chlorophyll? Yes, we need chlorophyll. Why? To absorb the sunlight, to carry out photosynthesis. Do we need soil? Yes. Why do we need soil? यहाँ से हमारे पास H2O आ रहा था. We need soil and we need sunlight. Sunlight is our source of energy for uh, photosynthesis. So we need carbon dioxide, we need water, we need chlorophyll, we need soil, and we need light. We do not need oxygen and we do not need nitrates. Pretty simple, easy peasy. ये जो practicals है ना, ये मैं आपको कोई दूसरी वीडियो में करवाऊँगा. Today I wanna get done with most of photosynthesis. नेक्स्ट हमारे पास ये है effects of external factors on rate of photosynthesis. यानी कि hypothesis. Let's just quickly go through this hypothesis. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. When setting up an experiment and a control, which of the two procedures in the control depends on how prediction. Example predictions is that the absence of light. And okay, you know what, this is basically an what's it called? This is also a basically a practical that they have done here. You know what, जब मैं practical कर रहा हूँगा ना ये दूसरी वीडियो में, I will probably do this hypothesis as well. Yeah, right. All right, let's do effects of external factors on rate of photosynthesis. All right, the rate of light reaction depends on the light intensity. Again, light reaction depends on light intensity. How intense is the light that's given? Water molecules in the chloroplast will split faster if the light becomes brighter. The brighter the light, the quicker the water molecules split. The dark reaction is affected by temperature. The rate of carbon dioxide combines with hydrogen to make carbohydrate increases as temperature increases. Very important things. Temperature increases, the rate of photosynthesis increases because carbohydrate का बनने का rate increase हो रहा है. अगर हम light को bright कर दें, it also increases the rate of photosynthesis. दो चीज़ें तो उन्होंने यहाँ बता दी. तो number 1, temperature increases, photosynthesis increases. Number 2, light increases, photosynthesis also increases. Important. Now they're using a very key word over here, limiting factors. A limiting factor is something present in the environment in such short supply that it limits life processes. Studying figure 6.10a, you can see that an increase in light intensity does speed up photosynthesis. It does speed up. Light intensity बढ़ा दी, photosynthesis rate बढ़ गया. मतलब if you can say in a span of 10 seconds there were 2 glucose molecules present. If you increase the light intensity, maybe it doubled, maybe 4 glucose molecules are present now, maybe 6. So this shows that light intensity बढ़ाने से, यहाँ इन्होंने example दिया है, this shows that light intensity आप बढ़ा रहे हो तो ग्राफ कहाँ जा रहा है, ऊपर की तरफ जाते जा रहा है. It means rate of photosynthesis भी बढ़ रहा है. तो light intensity does affect rate of photosynthesis, but only to a point. If you notice here, there is a point जहाँ ये stagnant हो गया, right? Limit हो गया, limit हो गया, limit हो गया, right? Beyond that point, any further increase in light intensity has only a small effect. One explanation of this limit on the rate of increase is that all available chloroplast is fully engaged in light absorption. So even if the light intensity increases more, no more light can be absorbed and used. Alternatively, the light could be because there is not enough carbon dioxide in the air to combine with extra hydrogen atoms produced, or it may be low temperature is the limiting rate of reaction. Alright, so there's multiple reasons why यहाँ limit हो रहा है, right? हम light intensity बढ़ाते जा रहे हैं, limit क्यों हो गया है? रीज़न नंबर वन हो सकता है जो लाइट absorb कौन कर रहा था, क्लोरोफिल्स. What if these chlorophylls are all saturated with, like, all of them are working, right? All of them are busy. Like जब आप कोई, let's suppose, इंटरनेट सर्विस को कॉल करते हैं and then they say all our employees or all our work staff is busy, please stay on the line. It means they are saturated, they're busy. It means you need to wait, right? So they're limited. Just like that, if the chlorophyll in number are limited and all of them are functioning and आप और लाइट दे रहे हो, ये जो एक्स्ट्रा लाइट आ रही है ना, जिसके लिए एक्स्ट्रा क्लोरोफिल है ही नहीं उसको ऑब्जॉर्व करने के लिए, दैट्स वाई रेट इंक्रीज ही नहीं हो रहा. आप एक्स्ट्रा लाइट तो देते जा रहे हो लेकिन वो लाइट वेस्ट हो रही है क्योंकि कोई और एक्स्ट्रा क्लोरोफिल ही नहीं है उस चीज़ को एब्जॉर्व करने के लिए, उस चीज़ को यूटिलाइज करने के लिए. तो नंबर वन इज़ दैट हो सकता है कि क्लोरोफिल आर लिमिटेड, chlorophyll limited, right? They're limited number, all of them are being used in the reactions. There are no extra chlorophyll present to absorb this extra light. Number two, it could be that there is limited carbon dioxide, right? Limited carbon dioxide to bond or form, what do you say, there's limited carbon dioxide concentration to carry out the process of photosynthesis. Maybe हो सकता है कि हर चीज़ हो, sunlight भी हो, water molecules भी हो, लेकिन carbon dioxide ही कम है. If carbon dioxide ही कम है, then let me just go back up here. If there's less carbon dioxide, if there's less carbon dioxide, then how is this process going to take place? Carbon dioxide नहीं है तो of course process won't take place. Carbon dioxide is a crucial part of photosynthesis. ये हो सकता है या तो टेम्परेचर. नंबर थ्री, टेम्परेचर इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. टेम्परेचर कुड बी लिमिटेड, राइट? maybe if you keep the temperature at a same spot, then of course the reaction is going to stay the same. Okay, moving on with extra hydrogen atoms, low temperature. Okay, and yeah, low temperature is limiting the rate of enzyme reaction. हो सकता है जो आप आई डोंट नो, लेट्स से 30 डिग्रीज पे आप कर रहे हो एंड एंजाइम का तो 37 ऑप्टिमम है, तो ऑफ कोर्स यहाँ तो लिमिट हो गया ना, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं जाएगा. जब तक आप टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज़ नहीं करोगे, रेट तो इंक्रीज़ नहीं होना एंजाइम का. Figure 6.10b shows that if the temperature of a plant is raised, the effect of increased light intensity is not limited so much. So in figure 6.10a, it is likely that the increase in the rate of photosynthesis could have been limited by the temperature. हो सकता है temperature ही limiting factor हो. Any of the external factors, temperature, light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration can limit the effect of the other two. A temperature rise can cause photosynthesis to speed up, but only to a point. एक point होगा जब वो फिर से stagnant हो जाएगा, फिर से वो constant हो जाएगा, where the light intensity limits further increase. In such conditions, the external factors that limit the effect of the others is called limiting factor. कोई बात नहीं, मैं आपको ये फिर से explain करूँगा कि what do they mean by limiting factor. But I will, I'll get into it. Artificially high levels of carbon dioxide in glass house do actually increase the yield of crops. तो basically जो glass house होता है ना, जिसमें plants वगैरह को grow करवाते हैं, उसमें कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की कॉन्सेंट्रेशन वो बढ़ा के रखते हैं ताकि रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस बढ़ा रहे. रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस बढ़ेगा तो ऑफ कोर्स plant will grow quicker and all of that. Glass houses and polytunnels also maintain a high temperature and so reduce the effect of low temperature as a limiting factor. तो ये सारे basically these are trying to optimize the photosynthesis process by doing what? Increasing carbon dioxide, increasing the temperature, right? ताकि कोई limiting factor as such ना रहे, and they clearly optimize the light reaching the plants. Part of the world, for example, tropical countries often benefit from optimum temperatures and rainfall for crop production. However, glasshouse and polytunnels are still often used because they allow growers to control आप कर सकते हो how much water, nutrients and plants receive, and they can also reduce crop damage by insect pests and diseases. Sometimes rainfall is too great to benefit the plant. In an experiment in the Seychelles in the wet season 1997, tomato crops in an open field yielded blah 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 in a glass. Anyways, not important. In a natural environment, the factors most likely limit the rate of photosynthesis are temperature, light intensity. The temperature affects the rate of enzyme control reaction, while light provides the source of energy to the plants to synthesize the organic molecules. In countries with a seasonal climate, the winter months represent conditions of low temperature and low light intensity. These conditions, okay, before I continue this and complete this, I let's get into this diagram first, right? This was representing the first ग्राफ जो हमने ऊपर भी देखा था. ये जो पहला वाला ग्राफ है, ये लेट सपोज ये 15 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे हमने किया था एंड यहाँ देखो कांस्टेंट हो गया. हम लाइट इंटेंसिटी तो बढ़ा रहे हैं, वी कीप ऑन इंक्रीजिंग द लाइट इंटेंसिटी, बट रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस नहीं बढ़ रहा. इसका क्या रीज़न हो सकता है, राइट? नंबर वन के जो क्लोरोफिल्स हैं, इट कुड बी दैट दे आर what's it called? It could be that they're saturated. The chlorophyls are all saturated. I've given all these points. Chlorophylls are all saturated. या carbon dioxide is carbon dioxide की concentration कम है या तो temperature कम है. अब पता कैसे चलेगा कि असली में लिमिटिंग फैक्टर क्या है, कौन सी चीज़ हमारे रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस को लिमिट कर रहा है, राइट? हमें पता ऐसे चलेगा कि इफ़ वी इंक्रीज, जैसे हमने यहाँ 15 से 25 डिग्रीज बढ़ा दिया है, तो इफ़ वी इंक्रीज द टेम्परेचर, हमें पता है एंजाइम की एक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी. इफ यू रिमेंबर फ्रॉम द लास्ट चैप्टर, व्हेन वी इंक्रीज द टेम्परेचर, द एंजाइम एक्टिविटी, द रेट ऑफ रिएक्शन at which the enzymes function, it increases, right? More collisions between the enzyme and the substrate, hence more the quicker the rate of reaction. अब आपको यहाँ देख रहा है कि पहले तो यहाँ तक जा रहा था rate of reaction. Now look at how it increased, right? The rate of reaction, it went from almost यहाँ से लेकर it went from almost यहाँ से लेकर now it has gone up till here. So the rate of photosynthesis has definitely increased. इससे हमें क्या पता चल रहा है? इससे हमें पता चल रहा है कि most probably the limiting factor over here was temperature, क्योंकि इसको बढ़ाने से हमारा क्या बढ़ गया? Rate of photosynthesis बढ़ गया. हो सकता है इसी को हम अगर जैसे कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की कॉन्सेंट्रेशन करते हैं, लेट सपोज कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की कॉन्सेंट्रेशन 0.04 यहाँ आप परसेंटेज 0.04% परसेंटेज थी, हाँ 0.04 परसेंटेज आप यहाँ रख दो, ऐसा हो. और फिर हमने नेक्स्ट एक ग्राफ बनाया जिसमें 0.06 हमने परसेंटेज रख दी कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की. हाउएवर जो दूसरा ग्राफ है 0.6% वाला भी, हाउएवर इमेजिन वो सेम बने, जस्ट लाइक ये जो 15 डिग्रीज वाला है ना, व्हाट इफ़ ऐसे ही दूसरा ग्राफ ऐसे ही सेम टू सेम ऐसे ही बने अगर हम 0.06 वाला कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन रखें. इससे हमें क्या पता चलेगा कि कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इज़ नॉट द लिमिटिंग फैक्टर, क्योंकि हमने उसको भी बढ़ा दिया लेकिन वो फिर भी नहीं बढ़ रहा. तो हमें पता चल रहा है कि टेम्परेचर इज़ द रियल लिमिटिंग फैक्टर, जिसकी वजह से हमने आगे जब उसको बढ़ा दिया तो दैट्स व्हेन रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस इंक्रीजेस. सो इट कुड बी एनीथिंग एंड यू कुड experiment and see which increasing what increases the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, moving on. Energy for the plants. In countries with a seasonal climate, the winter months represent conditions of low temperature and low light intensity. These conditions make photosynthesis very slow, of course. Plant species with an annual life cycles produce seeds that lie dormant until conditions are more favorable. Matlab, these seeds do not grow into plants until conditions are good, like there's sunlight or there's high temperature. Other plants produce vegetative structures in the forms of bulbs, combs, underground storage systems that look like bulb that is made up of swollen stem rather than fleshy leaves, so on and so forth. Not important. Only in spring, when the light intensity and temperature start to rise, these structures start to grow, produces leaves, and begin to photosynthesize. Grass in a lawn stops growing when the temperature drops. Basically what they're saying is these things are very important: temperature, carbon dioxide concentration, light intensity, so on and so forth. These things are very important for the rate of photosynthesis and for it to occur. They're just giving examples like woodland plants such as bluebells complete growing seasonally early in springs before the trees above them have developed. And अगर उसके ऊपर trees आ गए तो उससे क्या होता है, light वहाँ तक पहुँचती ही नहीं है, so that they can benefit from the light available. Of course, when the trees grow above these plants, then the trees cover the sunlight and hence they can't grow. Blah blah blah. Some ecosystem plant. Okay, these are not very important. Like they're saying some of them have extreme conditions. For example, Arctic tundra. For example, for the year, the temperature and light intensity are very low. Basically, this is like in the Arctic regions, in the cold regions, in tropical forests, all the plants are canopy receive light for very high intensity, though at ground level are shaded. However, the plants growing there benefit from constantly high mean temperatures. The idea of limiting factors applies to other processes as well as photosynthesis. For example, adding fertilizers to the soil can increase the crop yield. So long as a root can take up all the nutrients and the plant can build them into protein, etc. The uptake. Okay, all of this they're just saying this is important for the rate, increasing the rate of photosynthesis. All right, this is the main thing that you need to know here. Carrot plant grow in increasing concentration of carbon dioxide from left to right. यहाँ basically उन्होंने आप बोल दो this is A, group A, and this is group B. Group A received I guess a low carbon dioxide concentration, whereas group B received high carbon dioxide concentration. इसमें आपको फ़र्क क्या पता चल रहा है? You can see the size of these carrots. Look at how they have drastically increased in size. Hence, what does that mean? That means that carbon dioxide definitely helped in increasing the rate of photosynthesis and in the rate of carrying out these chemical reactions, right? All right. I hope a lot of these concepts are clear. I know थोड़ा ये वीडियो भी थोड़ी लंबी हो गई है, बट आई थिंक फोटोसिंथेसिस इज़ अ वेरी क्रूशल टॉपिक एंड यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड इसके क्रक्स क्या होते हैं एंड इसके इम्पोर्टेंस क्या होती है इन चीज़ों में, राइट? ऑल राइट, now test yourself. Let's test ourselves. Question number 5. A partially controlled environment of grass. Describe how you could change the external factors to obtain maximum photosynthesis. कौन कौन सी चीज़ें कर सकते हैं? लाइट इंटेंसिटी बढ़ा सकते हैं, राइट? वी कैन इंक्रीज द टेम्परेचर, तो लाइट इंटेंसिटी बढ़ा दी, टेम्परेचर बढ़ा दिया, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन बढ़ा दी. These are some external factors we can change. Suggest which of these alteration might not be cost effective. Some of them which might not be cost effective, I'm not sure exactly sure, but most probably something which is not as cost effective would be, this would most probably be like increasing the light intensity, because हो सकता है कि there's a limited amount of chlorophylls, right? तो जब वो इतने लिमिटेड हैं तो आप लाइट इंटेंसिटी बढ़ा के क्या करोगे? वो लाइट तो वेस्ट ही हो जाएगी, राइट? इट्स गोना बी वेस्टेड, सो नो पॉइंट. लेकिन टेम्परेचर बढ़ाओगे, एंजाइम्स की एक्टिविटी बढ़ जाएगी. आप कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड बढ़ाओगे, इट्स गोना हेल्प इन इंक्रीजिंग रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. लाइट बढ़ा के येस फोटोसिंथेसिस डज इंक्रीज, but to a very limited amount, because there is very limited amount of chlorophylls present, right? So you need to also keep that in mind. That's probably what they're going on about. Question number 6, figure 6.12 is a graph showing the average daily change in the carbon dioxide concentration 1 meter above an agricultural crop during the summer. Okay, using your knowledge of photosynthesis and respiration, explain the changes in carbon dioxide concentration. तो उन्होंने एक यहाँ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, अच्छा तो okay, this is good for your critical thinking. यहाँ इन्होंने टाइम दिया हुआ है, ठीक है? दिस इज़ 12 PM by the way, just so you guys can know, and this is 12 AM, so it's easier for you guys. अब now they're saying यहाँ ये सुबह से लेकर दोपहर तक you can see around 2 AM, आपको 2 AM से लेकर मैक्सिमम पीक गई है 4 AM, राइट? 4 AM तक. तो ये जो इंक्रीज इन कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन इतनी आई है, एज यू कैन सी, ये इंक्रीज इन कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन क्यों आई है? नंबर 1, क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 ये क्यों हुई है? क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 ये है ये डिप क्यों आया है? क्वेश्चन नंबर 2, राइट? क्वेश्चन नंबर 3, अब ये वापस इंक्रीज क्यों हो रही है? ऑलराइट, आई मीन इट्स वेरी सिंपल, आई एम श्योर यू गाइज नो इससे क्या रिलेशन है. 2 AM से लेकर 4 AM तक ये जो टाइम है, ये तो रात का टाइम स्टार्ट हो गया ना. रात के टाइम में सनलाइट होती है? देयर इज़ नो सनलाइट, राइट? नो सनलाइट ही नहीं होती. जब सनलाइट ही नहीं है तो फोटोसिंथेसिस होगी? नहीं होगी. नहीं होगी, नो फोटोसिंथेसिस. अब ये जो फोटोसिंथेसिस नहीं होगी, नाउ आई वांट यू टू नो वन थिंग, जो प्लांट है ना उसमें दोनों चीज़ें हो रही होती हैं. फोटोसिंथेसिस भी हो रही होती है, रेस्पिरेशन भी हो रही होती है. In daylight, let me write here. In daylight, there is photosynthesis and there is respiration. Photosynthesis हो रही है, light है, sunlight, right? In daylight. Respiration तो of course हर वक्त हो रही होती है. Your cells need to, the only way they're alive is because they're respiring, they're producing energy so that they can function. अगर energy produce नहीं होगी respiration के through, मर जाएंगे सारे cells. सेकेंडली नाइट टाइम में होता ये है कि अब सिंस सनलाइट नहीं है तो फोटोसिंथेसिस नहीं होगी. हाउएवर रेस्पिरेशन तो हर वक्त होगी ना. सेल्स ऑलवेज नीड टू रेस्पायर टू प्रोड्यूस एनर्जी, दे ऑलवेज नीड टू फंक्शन, वरना तो फिर सेल्स ही मर जाएंगे. अब आप मुझे बताओ, जब फोटोसिंथेसिस नहीं हो रही और जो फोटोसिंथेसिस से हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स क्या बन रहे थे, एक तो ग्लूकोज बन रहा था प्लस ऑक्सीजन बन रहा था, करेक्ट है ना. ग्लूकोज प्लस ऑक्सीजन. यहाँ हमारे पास रेस्पिरेशन हो रही है. रेस्पिरेशन से क्या बन रहा था, कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स बन रहे थे, हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स बन रहे थे कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्लस H2O, राइट. नाउ इट्स नॉट जस्ट अबाउट द प्रोडक्ट्स, इट्स ऑल्सो अबाउट व्हाट इज बीइंग यूज्ड. आई वांट यू टू नो दैट अगर ये जो रेस्पिरेशन से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ये बना भी रहा था, फोटोसिंथेसिस में तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड वापस यूज़ हो रहा था ना. तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ओवरऑल एट डे लाइट, इवन इफ रेस्पिरेशन की वजह से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड बन भी रहा था एट डे लाइट, वही कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड वापस फोटोसिंथेसिस में तो यूज़ हो रहा था, करेक्ट. टू प्रोड्यूस व्हाट इन फोटोसिंथेसिस, ऑक्सीजन, करेक्ट. ऑक्सीजन प्लस ग्लूकोज. नाउ व्हाट आई वांट यू टू नो इज, सिंस कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इज बीइंग यूज्ड अप, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड के लेवल्स को क्या होना चाहिए, डिक्रीज. रेस्पिरेशन से जो भी बना कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, जो भी प्रोड्यूस हुआ, वो फोटोसिंथेसिस में तो यूटिलाइज हो गया ना, तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड डिक्रीज. हाउएवर नाइट टाइम में अगर आप देखें, रेस्पिरेशन से बन रहे हैं कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्लस वाटर, राइट. वाटर बन रहा है. नाउ इज दिस कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड बीइंग यूज्ड अप बाय फोटोसिंथेसिस? नो. तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की कॉन्सेंट्रेशन क्या होगी, बढ़ जाएगी. यूज्ड अप ही नहीं हो रहा कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड. यू अंडरस्टैंड. सो ये सीन है. रात के टाइम सिंस फोटोसिंथेसिस ही नहीं हो रही, वो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड यूज़ ही नहीं हो रहा फोटोसिंथेसिस में, एंड सिर्फ रेस्पिरेशन हो रही है, उसकी वजह से लेवल्स ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड स्टार्ट टू राइज. अब आप देखेंगे अराउंड 4 to 6 सुबह के टाइम when the sun starts rising, now it's dipping. Why is it dipping? Because photosynthesis is finally occurring. photosynthesis शुरू हो गई है. photosynthesis शुरू हो गई, इसका मतलब कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड is being used, right. Carbon dioxide is being used up, and hence you can see carbon dioxide levels throughout the day until sham ke time, as you can see around here. This is a 17, which is about 5 p.m. 5 6 p.m tak sun sets, right. Around this time you can see कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड लेवल्स आर लो. वाई आर दे लो? रेस्पिरेशन भी हो रही है, फोटोसिंथेसिस भी हो रही है. रेस्पिरेशन से प्रोड्यूस क्या हो रहा है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, लेकिन वही कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड जाके यूज़ अप कहाँ हो रहा है, फोटोसिंथेसिस में. तो दैट्स वाई कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड के लेवल्स ड्रॉप कर गए. अंडरस्टूड? आई होप दैट इज़ क्लियर, राइट. ओके. And as you can see, number 3, why is it rising again? Now we are approaching night again. The sun sets after evening. Sunsets. Since sunsets, there is no sunlight. No sunlight, no photosynthesis, no use up of carbon dioxide. Hence carbon dioxide concentration rises. Understood? That's why carbon dioxide concentration rises. Alright, I hope that all makes sense कि why carbon dioxide is plays such a crucial role, and how sunlight plays such a crucial role in the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide. I hope that all makes sense. And one thing I do want to repeat about the limiting factor, and just one last time, is that limiting factor is so important because this shows which factor is actually the one that's bringing this limitation, right. अगर उस फैक्टर को आप बढ़ा दोगे, जैसे हमने टेम्परेचर को बढ़ाया and then the graph went up and the rate of photosynthesis increased, that meant temperature was the limiting factor. If we increase the carbon dioxide and let's suppose the graph stays the same, that means carbon dioxide is not the limiting factor, because that's not the factor जिसको बढ़ाने से वो बढ़ रहा है. टेम्परेचर इज द एक्चुअल वन दैट्स लिमिटिंग द रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. अगर टेम्परेचर को हमने बढ़ाया तो वो इंक्रीज, बट दिस इज जस्ट एन एग्जांपल कि टेम्परेचर इज़ वन ऑफ देम. हो सकता है कि टेम्परेचर को बढ़ाने से रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस नहीं बढ़े, लेकिन अगर हम कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की कॉन्सेंट्रेशन बढ़ा दें, रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस बढ़ जाए. तो यू हैव टू लुक एट कि कौन सी चीज़ इंक्रीज करने से रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस बढ़ रहा है, उसको हम लिमिटिंग फैक्टर बोलते हैं. Alright, I hope this all makes sense. ये वाला part है ना, I'm gonna do it with the practical later on in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope photosynthesis was clear, and I hope it all made sense. Thank you, and see you in the next video.